So, this week, always the hardest week for those of you that are in week 5, as a week with levels. And so, typically, we have, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 people out of every class that just get it right away. Most people just don't, and that's completely normal. That's just how it is. It's how it's always been since I've done these courses or classes for 2 years now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up a lot of screenshots, um, and so this is just so we can talk about some of the common traits that I see over and over and over again, and I just want to make sure that everybody's aware so you don't make or assume the same things in your mind about levels. Um, so all right, there's going to be a bunch more, but let's start here. All right, so the first thing is that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that what is the purpose of a reset? Anybody tell me, what's the purpose of a reset?
Be able to continue in the same direction to restart the cycle to keep going in the same direction.
Right. So if price action, let's say, is at 2,000, and market makers want to get to 1,000, in order to get from here to here, they can't just drop 1,000 pips, right? And so this is when you have the pattern. This is when you have this, this, and that, right? Now, a reset comes into play because obviously they're not, this move alone here maybe only got them down to about 1,700, right? They still need to go much lower. Well, the way that they get much lower without having to go all the way up a whole friggin' cycle and go again is they would go ahead and give you level 1 or level 2, but then drop, and they would basically break this low. When they do that, this whole thing starts all over again. So what used to be level 1 is now a reset, right? Because it broke this low. Now, once you have a reset that's broken the low, everything starts over again. So, and essentially, this right here becomes peak formation high again, and then literally the count starts all over. So level 1, level 2, level 3, right? Now let's say this second wave here, the second cycle, let's say it gets them down to 1,300. Again, they're still not at 1,000 where they want to get to. So they might go up, let's say level 1, level 2 back up, but then they break again and they break this low again, right? As soon as they do that, it's the same thing. You had level 1, you had level 2, but now this becomes a reset again, and this again becomes peak formation high, and the shit starts all over again. So 1, 2, and then they get to 1,000, and they finally break it down. Okay. So the whole purpose is for them to go from here, from 2,000 to 1,000, without needing to basically go 3 levels down, 3 levels up, and then make one of the levels even further. It's avoidance of doing all that stuff because they don't want to go back up because they already have people trapped here from in buys. So the more times that they go back up, the more times it allows traders who are trapped to get out of the trade as a break-even trade or as a small loss. So many times have you been in a trade, or how many times have you taken a trade where you told yourself, if it can just get back to break even or a small loss, I'll just get out of the trade. How many of you done that?
Several times.
I know I have.
No.
So that's the purpose of why they don't go just 3 levels back up and then drop it, further down the next time, because they're just basically having to do double the work. Okay. So a couple things about resets, because I think this is where a lot of the stuff, a lot of the examples come from, are literally just the reset part. Is the fact that in order to have a reset, you need to have first 3 levels of drop. So a good example is this right here. If this is peak formation low, you can't just go 1, 2, and then a reset. Unless this reset is going down. You get what I'm saying? So if you're coming from up here like this, and that's peak formation, level 1, level 2, and you're saying that this is going to be a reset, then this needs to break this low. So in order for you to have a reset, you need to have a full 3 levels of drop first, right? You need to have this first. You can't do this and have, a reset when you only have 2 levels previous. So a full cycle needs to happen, and then you either need to be at level 1 or level 2 on the next cycle. And then obviously it needs to break the low here to keep the trend going. Now I don't know what the rest of this picture is to the left or to the right, so I can only speculate about what I'm looking at here. And so a lot of these examples, I can only assume what I'm going to assume based on the actual picture that I have. So I can't give you all, a completed answer to that unless I know the full picture. But on this case, this is not a reset. You can't have a reset at level 2 and reversing. What's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture?
It didn't break the low of the peak formation there by Monday. It didn't
Right.
break the low.
Right. So this isn't a reset, right? You've only gone up 2 levels and you didn't break this low. And I don't know if this is a reset here, how you can have another reset like that. It just doesn't make any sense. So this, incorrect. From just looking at this looks like a peak formation low, level 1. This whole thing here might be level 2. This is only a 15-minute chart. But that's what it looks like. If you go up to a 1-hour chart on this same example, you might get level 1, level 2, and then this is level 3 up here. But this is definitely not correct. You don't have reset after another reset. It just doesn't work that way. The same thing. You're going to see this literally the same thing over and over and over again. So this is the mistakes that I don't want you guys to make. Again, if this is going to be a reset, right, and this is a peak formation low, so that means that you had a full cycle, right, coming down. You have level 1, level 2, okay? This needs to break this here and continue down. And this would be the reset. This would be the reset. Okay.
Okay, hold on, Mark. So on that right there, I thought the reset was to continue going up. So if that was peak formation low, level 1, and then level 2, if level 3 would be the top of the full cycle, right? And then it would go the opposite direction. So the reset I thought would be like to go up, to continue going up instead of just level 3 and then coming down. It would go reset and then go level 1, level 2, maybe level
So
3.
you're coming off of peak formation low, right?
Yep.
So you go up 1 level and then another level.
Yep.
Okay. This so far, there is no reset, because if you're coming off of this cycle down,
Mhm.
You're saying that you want to keep going further down. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like literally like this, right? This is the reset up here.
Yeah, I thought I saw maybe I'm totally lost on this, but I thought the M at the top, you got the A, and then W. The W would be it
So it's
going
like
reversing
this,
back up.
right? The
Yep.
M here, you have a level, level, and then this right here would be the W, which is this, right? So this is a full cycle, peak formation low, you go up one level, and then you go up another level here. This right here is not a reset. All this is just a cycle going back up.
Okay.
This right here, this part here is confusing a lot of people.
Mhm.
This is a 15-minute chart. So if you literally just look on a 15-minute chart where the lines are, right? Where these lines are, this is a daybreak, right? This right here is the Asian session. Asian session.
Gotcha.
Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
So if you're looking at on a regular chart and you're looking at just levels on a 15-minute time frame, notice that literally where there is a daybreak at, where the new day starts, there's always essentially sideways movement, sideways movement, sideways movement, sideways movement, sideways movement the whole time, every single time. Because this right here, all this is just the Asian range, and then you have whatever's going to happen, and then again, sideways movement. There's a daybreak next day, whatever happens, and then back to sideways movement. That's all it is, literally the whole chart, all the time, over and over and over again. So you can go back to every single day. Look, same thing. There's a daybreak. 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 Same thing every single time. Doesn't change. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I wasn't thinking it was a 15-minute chart. Didn't pick up on the consolidation phase.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this consolidation phase is basically them building out a level. You know, so if you're using this on a 15-minute chart, these two, because they're in the same lane, it's a level. This up here is another level. This up here is another level. This is all another level. This is another level. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. Tricky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I told you at the beginning of the video, like don't, of the week 5 video, like don't stress too much about it. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. This is the hardest part to learn, and the reason it's the hardest part is because everybody sees it or interprets it in a different way. So I think that the most important thing that you need to understand is that I may look at let me pull up one of my levels here. Where is it here? So I may look at this as that, or I may look at this like this. You may see it on a smaller scale, right? As long as it makes sense to where you can get to the same output as I am. So as long as you can get to peak formation high up here or peak formation here, and you can count this however you want to. You can count resets, whatever it is that you want. As long as you get to the same outcome, that's what matters. Because if you can't get to the same outcome, you're going to be completely lost. So if you're looking at it on a 15-minute time frame, obviously it's going to be smaller. The higher you go on the time frame, the bigger you zoom out, the bigger the levels get. And so if this was a daily chart, this whole block here may be 2 months. You know? That whole block may be 2 months. So within that 2 month period, within this block of 2 months, there's bound to be a couple cycles in there. At least. All right, so this one here, what's wrong with this one?
Isn't that just a W where he got the PFL, the level 1, and the reset?
Right.
It's just a
So
W.
if this is peak formation low, it comes down, it goes up, and it comes right back down again, right? And it just creates a multi-day bottom or multi-day level 3 or peak formation low. This is not a reset here. For this to be a reset, right, if this is level 1 here, this needs to break this low here and keep going down. Because it doesn't break the low and it literally just tags it, it's an unconfirmed reset. And all that means is just a multi-day W or M if you're going, back down again. Okay? But the rest of this is fine. But that reset, that's not a reset there at all. It's the same thing here. This is not a reset. If this was going to be a reset here to go higher, you would need 3 levels of rise first. So you need a full cycle. And then you can go higher, like that. Okay? So this is not a reset. All this is just a regular level. This is all just a regular level.
I think for me, I think mine, I did the same thing as this person did on a lot of my charts. Almost all of them they had a reset.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere in either the video that you shared about the ADR or the other one, it mentioned that after the resets happen a lot of times after level 2. And so I wrote that down, and then I'm like, okay, where's the pullback to continue going up? Like if they're going up an upward trend from here, I'm looking at that reset, trying to find it after level 2
Yeah.
to say, okay, they can't go 1,000 pips upwards without it. And that's kind of what threw me for I'm not trying to make excuses. That's just how
No, absolutely not. So this is what I mean by happening at level 2, right? Is you have a full cycle. So you have a peak formation high. You have level 1, level 2, level 3, goes back up to level 1. You're at level 2. You're expecting this to go up and give you a level 3, but it doesn't. It tanks and it breaks through here. Okay.
I totally did the reset the opposite direction.
Yeah. So one thing that I will tell you is that I learn things every single day. Like I'm always learning, right? And I'm always studying. I'm a very analytical person, right? I like data. And so one thing that I have noticed is since making the video for week 5 is that a lot of the setups, a lot of the resets that I see now are happening at level 1. Another thing that I notice is that the EMAs aren't playing as big a factor as they used to be. What's playing a bigger factor now is the ADR. So think about a lot of times what happens when you have a huge move that happens out of the gate, out of the top here, and it just goes straight down. What do you think happens to the EMAs, right? They all like cross over at the same time. And you don't get, you don't get a level until all the way down here. By that time, all these EMAs have crossed over already because of the aggressive move.
Yeah, the EMAs was one of my questions I had for you because that was confusing. I tried to follow it, but some of them you could see them and some of them I just couldn't. And that's probably
Right.
why the aggressive move. And
It's the aggressive move. It causes all of the EMAs to cross over at the same time. And so you get a really, really long move, and then you get one level here, and then you start moving, and you're like, shit, all these, the crossovers all happened all the way up here. So those are a couple things that I've noticed since making the video. So same thing here. There's no need for this here. There's no need for a reset to happen here because you haven't had 3 levels of drop yet.
so would you just erase the reset box and just let it keep going down to form level 3?
Yes.
Kind of
Exactly.
ignore that
Exactly.
bump
Yes.
and everything.
Yes. Because remember, this is a 15-minute chart, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
So all this is just a type 1. That's all it is. You consolidate here. You'd make your move, consolidate again. So don't let the type 1 pattern, fool you into thinking that. If you haven't had, a full cycle yet. So very important. You just got to have a full cycle first. So I think maybe that's where the, a lot of the confusion came for, for a lot of people that were doing this, because this was a very common theme. And so a lot of the mistakes are like literally the resets. So it's the same thing. You know what I mean? You'll see the same thing over and over again. Level 1, level 2, and then it counts as a reset. This is not a reset. It's just a full level. So all this is here is just all you have is level 1. This whole thing's level 2, level 3, and peak. That's all it is. So very common theme here. This is the same thing where you had what looks to be a full cycle down, and then you had a multi-day W, and you didn't break the low here. So this is an unconfirmed reset, and all it is just a level 3 here. This whole thing. And then you're just going up. 1, 2, and 3. What's wrong with this one? This right here, in order for the reset to work, for you to have a reset, you need to have, so you can't have a reset you can't have this be a reset and then not go another 3 levels down. So it's not like a reset and then 1 and then reverse. Do you get what I'm saying? Once you have a reset, this is again, it starts over. Peak formation high, and then you have another 3 levels of drop before reverse. So keep that in mind. So once the reset happens, everything restarts again. You're back at peak formation low, peak formation high, whichever one it is. So if this was really a reset, you would have needed 3 more levels of rise and then a reversal. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm gonna say yes and then damn. It makes sense now.
Anytime that you're looking at trying to identify levels and you're coming up with level 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're either doing one of two things. You're either skipping a reset or you're counting them too small. You're counting them too small. All right? So anytime you see yourself doing that, that's what's happening. Same thing here. This is not a reset because um, you didn't have a full cycle here. All this is this is all just one level. This is the third level here. This is all peak formation low, 1, 2, and 3. That's all it is. So there's no need to make it complicated. Keep it as simple as possible. If you get to a chart that you can't find the top or bottom and you can't, try to identify the levels right away and you feel completely lost, like literally go to a different chart. There's no need for you to spend 20 minutes trying to figure out a chart because the likelihood is that you're going to be wrong. So I think one of the things that would help you is when we get into the back testing and you start back testing your pairs, you have to start somewhere, right? Start somewhere where you can start to identify the levels. And as you're back testing, you're literally putting in, wherever the levels are. That way, when you get to present day, you literally already know where you are and you can just keep it going. But just imagine how much more you're going to know about that specific pair because you mapped out the whole levels. And then another thing is when you guys are doing the homework and stuff, or even, in the future when you're doing this, don't just do a portion of it just because, it makes sense. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 levels here. But then when you try to keep going, over here to keep the count or whatnots and to keep identifying it, the rest of it doesn't make sense. So just because this portion, you did this portion of it correct because it was easy to identify, but the rest of it on the left side or on the right side don't make any sense, then you're not doing yourself any justice because you're not really learning anything. Because you're just doing it really to just appease yourself, but you're really doing it wrong because if you can't continue this, then you don't know what it is that you're doing with that. So this same thing here, there's no reset here. This is all just one level. All these examples pretty much have the exact same thing, and I think that's where the whole reset at level 2 thing was at. But most of the stuff is just literally just one level. It's just that simple like that. Same thing here. If you're gonna have a reset, you need to have 3 levels more of rise. Same thing here, 1, 2, 3, and then peak formation high. So does this help clear up a lot of the stuff that you were having questions about?
It does for me.
Yeah,
I have a few others, but I'm gonna let other people talk first.
So what other confusions do you have about levels?
Mark, so what you actually been saying is when the reset does happen and it's dropping below the previous, for instance, peak formation low, if you're looking at a long, that in the studies also you mentioned 180R. So the 180R doesn't really matter if it doesn't break the low of the previous peak formation low or high.
Yeah, so the 180R part that I'm talking about is whenever you have this, right? Typically what you like to see is if you to be able to find the bottoms and the tops, so the peak formation highs, peak formation lows going into like level 1, you ideally want to find this part here. This move is typically 1 times ADR in a full day in a straight shot. So it's like you'll see this and then all of a sudden it just moves away from this whole area here, you know, like this, and starts to settle. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When that behavior happens like that, it's a good behavior of telling you that you're at a bottom or a low, as long as you can count at least, 3 times ADR from here to here. Now, if what I want, something that I have been noticing is if you get this same behavior here, but um, you haven't had the 3 times ADR, it could mean that they're wanting to continue further down. But the 180R, you want to see that on a full day or like in one day right after like a peak formation low or a peak formation high, and that'll help confirm that that's where you are. And then typically most of the time, that's when you also get, the 50 and 13 cross always happens there also. This is all on the 1 hour chart, by the way.
Okay.
So that helps you find or try to identify the peak highs and the peak lows at the very bottom, so you can try and get some trades to basically go with the new trend while other people are still trying to sell. So like in this case here, let's say you had a full cycle that came down. Here's your peak here. You had a full day of rise, 1 times ADR, and then now you're settling. A lot of people are basically selling here because they see this, right? But because they don't know what's going on, you on the other hand are looking for a buy. You're looking for this move. And so if you can catch a move from down here, then now you could try to hold it for the next, 2 levels up or 2 or 3 days. So you turn into like, a swing trade basically,
Yeah, gotcha.
you know. So this right here is the reset. All this is just a W. This isn't level one. This isn't a reset down here. All this is just a multi-day W, level one here, and then it breaks, and you break all this stuff here. And you just keep going. So here is your reset. What things are you guys confused about that I haven't answered yet so far? So I want to say all these are pretty much the same thing. Level resets at level 2 when there shouldn't be any resets. Like this is not a reset here. If this was peak formation low and this is level 1, for a reset to happen, it would need to do that and break that and then keep going. So a lot of these are basically the same theme. And so hopefully this has cleared this up for you to where if this is a peak formation low, all this is here is level 1 going up to level 2.
No, it's much more clearer for me.
Yeah. But I mean, again, this is going to take time, guys. The more time you spend on it, obviously, the better you're going to get. And so just understand that it is, no matter what, going to take time. This is the hardest part that took me the longest to understand and to grasp. So if you're doing like this stuff here, getting up 6 levels, you're counting them way too small. There's really no reset or anything like that. You're just counting them way too small. That's it. But I think the rest are like literally the same thing. Same examples of resets. Resets, resets, resets. There was this one here. All right, what's wrong with this? Is there anything wrong with it?
I actually think it's good.
Yeah. So there's two ways you can look at this, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can have 3 different people can have different interpretations depending on how they're looking at it. So in one sense, the only thing that's wrong here is that this is not an unconfirmed reset. This is just a reset, right? So you'd have peak 1, 2, 3, you're up 1, and then it breaks down again. It breaks that, and that's a reset, right? The other aspect of it is that if you're looking at it from a bigger standpoint or a bigger picture, then you might only see literally one level here, and you might consider this whole thing as one level, and then goes down to a whole nother level.
Wouldn't the 3 times ADR rule come into play in there if you were able to know
If you
that?
really think about it, I mean, I don't know what is it from here to here, but I mean, it doesn't look like it's a long distance. I don't know. This is pound AUD though, so pip value is extremely high. But yeah, so just without knowing that, I don't know. but there's two different ways that you can look at it depending on if your eyes are used to seeing a bigger time frame picture or a smaller picture. You know what I mean? But there's nothing wrong with this besides the fact that it says unconfirmed here, which is not correct. This is just a reset.
This chart actually has one of explains one of the questions I had was on like the 60-minute chart, which this one is. How many candles should be in that level ideally? Because like that level one after the reset, there's some of the times when I was looking at charts and it just like it would tank and you'd only have a couple that would show like a level. Otherwise, it was like
Yeah.
all red,
Yeah.
and it was 4 or 5 times ADR by the time it stopped. And I'm like, okay, I guess this little blip is a level.
Yeah. So whenever those type of things happen, they happen because of news, right? Is typically when you see them. And so a lot of the time when you see that happen, you'll see the very next day price will literally come right back up to correct it. But in order for you to have a level, it needs to have a defined area where price is just moving sideways. You know? So that little blimp right there of like level one after the reset is only 2 candles, right? 2 hour candles, really. Now on a 15-minute chart, 2 hours is what, 8 candles, you know? Also depending on where, what time of the day is this happening at, because this is a 1 hour chart, so this is the beginning of the week. We don't know when does the day start. You know what I mean? Or when does the day start? What day? So I can only assume that this right here is probably the Asian session, and then this right here is probably another Asian session, because it looks like since this is Australian dollar, moves early, and then you have this, and then this is probably the Asian session for the next day. So if you start counting, this railroad track there is 8 candles, and then you have the doji next to it is another 4 candles, and this one after that's another 4 candles. So now you're looking at what, 16 candles on a 15-minute chart. Just like if you look at it, if this was, let's say, a 4 hour chart, that we're basically breaking down, going back down, and you'll see that there's sideways movement there. It just depends on where you're looking at it at. But the majority of the time you shouldn't have to worry about small stuff like that. What's wrong with this one?
Wouldn't that be it's not unconfirmed, it should be a reset, but then that level one isn't peak formation high, that reset would be, right? And level one after the reset, isn't it supposed to be below the other one?
So
level two, I think.
Well, this is peak formation, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 1. This breaks and then breaks further down, right? So this is a reset. It's just a regular reset. It's not unconfirmed.
Yeah.
This is level 1. It just keeps going down. I think the only thing that this person did was they named the resets all unconfirmed resets.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, but yeah.
Yeah. But
I
everything
was
else on
about
it,
to ask that too. What's unconfirmed? Is that even a thing?
it is a thing. Yes, it's
Okay.
basically when you expect a reset and it doesn't break through this high.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So it goes like up
okay.
to here, and then it drops again. But yeah, the rest of it you can see is correct. 1, 2, 3, a reset, 1, 2, and then 3 up here. So this particular person is the only thing that they did wrong on this is they name, I don't know if they got confused or whatnot, so they named every reset as unconfirmed reset. But I mean, other than that, everything else would be correct.
Well, good job. That was awesome.
Yeah, like I said, there's only literally like generally speaking, only like three people per class that literally just, I don't know, maybe they've had previous experience or whatnot, but they seem to very comfortable with it. So good for them. All right, so what's wrong with this picture?
After the reset,
I
it
mean,
should
that
have gone down further.
Right. After the reset, I should have gone down further. I don't know if it does or not, but I don't think it does since they're naming it peak formation low. You know.
so even that one spike on level one after the reset is not enough for you to say it's a break, right?
Well, I think you have to consider the fact of what this is telling you. Like I don't know what's after this, so I don't know if it keeps going down or it goes up. So I don't know. I just have this to work off of, right? And so if I'm trying to get from here to here as from peak high to peak low, what would make sense for this? You know, what would make sense? You could break it down to smaller chunks. So you could make it to where this is all one level here, level 2, and then level 3. You make it that simple, right? Others may want to break it down even further to where it's like, peak formation high, let's say level 1, level 2, level 3, and then this right here would be a reset, level 1, level 2, 3, reset, but then you would need to have another level. And so I don't know if this goes back up again, or if this, does one here and then goes back down. I don't know. But you can put it as simplistic as you want to, or you can break it into smaller chunks if you're on a 1 hour time frame. But as long as you get a correct, from here to here as a peak high or low. So like here, what's wrong with this?
It should be 3 levels. It's only 2 and then 1.
So we got one level here. We got level 2 here, right? Level 3, and then peak. That's it. Same thing here as before. One, two, three peak. That's it. Then this was literally the same. This was the main problem with a lot of people's homework was this right here. So maybe I just explained it in a different way that you guys interpreted it, but that was the main problem in most of the homework. Everything else was literally fine. It was just the reset part. That's all that it was just the reset part. and this here also, where you had you said there was a reset here, but then there's, you know, only one level. What you could do is this is a reset here. This is a level 1, level 2, level 3. That would make sense.
But using that scenario where you just drew, doesn't that, if that was that left box of the reset box was the reset, and that oval there was level 1, doesn't that level 1 have to be below the previous peak formation low on this chart then? Or can level 1 be
Does
above
this
the?
have to be below this? No.
Yeah.
As long as the whole price action breaks this.
Okay. That's why. So for some reason I was thinking, okay, level 1 has to be below peak formation low.
No, it doesn't have to be below it. No.
Okay.
So think about it like this: in a scenario like this, if you're, you know, if you're coming off a peak low, and you're thinking you're at level 1 here, and you're looking for buys, and you see the behavior that buys aren't coming, what should you think about? What would probably trigger you there? If you're not getting the buys that you want because you're wanting to, you know, to buy to keep going up, but this is telling you is selling off, it's one of two things, right? It's either gonna be, this is either turning into a reset, or this is topping to be a bigger multi-day reversal. But also think about it like this: if you were to look at this on a higher time frame, like a daily, let's say, and this would be your peak. Let's say this would be level 1. This whole thing here would be a level 2. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, this is the same thing. This is all just one level here. So there is no reset here. It's just 1, 2, 3 peak. Same thing here. It's like the same thing on most of them. This is obviously not a reset. This is all just one level. 3 and peak. So 1, 2, 3 and peak. How many of you guys are using like ADR at all? Anybody?
It was, but it made it. It was a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Blessing and a curse at the same time.
Like some of them worked out great. Some of them, like, it's 6 times ADR. I don't know how to get there. I'm trying to figure out how to get there.
Yeah. It's 6 times ADR. Yeah. What is the most, was the reset part the most confusing part of it for most of you guys? Or was it something else?
For me, it was the reset.
Yeah, for me it was the reset, I think.
Okay. Was there anything um was there anything in the video that made it more confusing, so that way I could just make it better?
I think what you said earlier on to me as well as the EMAs are not such a
Yeah.
clear indicator anymore
Right.
after we've learned now, you know.
Yeah.
Honestly, Mark, if you watch that video, the reset's covered like for 5 minutes. It's like at the very end of the video, and
Mm-hmm.
then we were supposed to find like 25 resets, and that's why I was like, I'm not sure how to do this.
Gotcha.
So if you can expand on that a little bit, because that's where I was confused.
Okay. No worries. I will do that.
And for me, Mark, I don't know if maybe I missed it, but counting a level as a level, um, when you mentioned to me that if you have a level, for instance, and you think it's a level and it's in the middle of a day, it's not a level. It's just a bunch of accumulation. It's not a level because your levels only gets formed once it's going across an Asian session. That should be a level. So that will help you not counting it as a level once you see a small little accumulation.
Right. Letting like the type ones typically is when you would see that, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the type ones and stuff. Yeah. So no worries. I plan on after this class, I think this will be the last class I do for maybe like 4 or 5 months. And then I was planning on going somewhere and locking myself in a room and redoing everything. Because you have to understand, like, there's so many things that I've learned since making those videos. And so, if you were to remember, um, like the very first version of the classes and stuff to what it is now, you'd be like amazed. So it's almost the same thing. It's like there's so many newer things that I could, that I could put in there. So
Well, you do explain things really well, and then you answer questions and explain them without getting frustrated. So with us, so I appreciate that.
no, I mean, how else are you gonna learn if you don't ask questions? Or I expect a whole bunch of questions. Um, a couple classes ago, um, there was um, there was a guy, I forgot his name, but he would literally ask a gazillion questions. Like literally, like the group sessions were like 2 hours long, and I would say an hour would be because of the questions that he was asking. But I mean, at the same time, it gave everybody else, um, huge advantage because they got to, to see the answers to those questions as well. So I think his name was Arpan. Yeah, I think it was Arpan that asked a bunch of questions. But I mean, that's awesome. You don't. I don't expect you guys to get it right away. I expect you guys to have a lot of questions, and so that's the whole point of this is to ask questions, answer them, just to make sure that you have a clear understanding of everything before moving on to something else. Because then at that point, you're just not going to retain all the information, you know? So, cool. What else? What are the questions you guys have on levels? What questions do you guys have on levels? Any other questions on levels? Um, there's, I think here's somebody that gets it, or that gets the stuff like right away. Um, who was the other one? The person that did this also same thing. They get it right away. So I think a thing that you guys should take advantage of, I feel, is like in the Discord group, like go into the level section and like start posting some charts of like levels and ask, is this, what do you guys think, is this correct, wrong, what's missing, you know things of that nature, so you guys can check yourselves and get other people's feedback on whether or not they see the same thing that you do. Same
No,
thing for
thanks. I'll do that.
cycles, same things for, that's why all those different channels are there. Is so you can ask specific questions about those specific topics. You know? So I think, moving forward, if you guys want to put out, some levels and stuff, we can check them. We can all, say, hey, do this better. This level's here. Or that's not correct. That's not a reset. Yes, that is a reset. I mean, that's the whole point, is for a collective group of people to look at it and, give you feedback on it. That's the whole point of it. All right, any other questions on levels? Or do we feel a whole lot better now about levels?
Yep, I do. Thank you.
Cool.
I feel better about it. I got to go change a lot of notes, but
Yeah,
I feel better about
Me
it.
too.
Well, listen, whenever I'm gonna redo this whole class, I'm gonna remake all the videos again with all the new stuff all the knowledge that I've gained over the last year and a half since since I did those videos. And so you'll be able to redo the whole thing if you want to, with the new videos if you want. So, I mean, so hopefully you just keep learning. There's not going to be a time where you're just like, I stopped learning, or I have it and I don't need to keep learning. Every day you should want to learn something new and just help you evolve and be a better trader in general. All right.
I was in his previous class and I learned a couple things tonight. So thanks, Mark.
You are good. That's good. All right. So someone pick a chart or pick a pair.
Aussie, okay, British pound, Aussie.
Pound Aussie.
If I may.
Pound Aussie. All right. So pound Aussie. Let me clear all the drawings that are on pound Aussie. Da. 19. How far back can I go? I don't know if I can go back this far. I can't believe we're like back in like 2021 already. Where is this? Let's do. I don't know if I can go back here. So let me play it. No, can't go back that far. Let me play out the rest of this week here. All right, so we're coming off of what type of cycle?
It's like a trending cycle.
A trending cycle. Okay, very good. So coming off of a trending cycle, and then also what are we coming off of, it looks like, based on where you see the bigger EMAs and stuff. What does that look like, perhaps?
Peak formation low.
Right, that's what it looks like, right?
Mhm.
So it looks like you're coming off of a peak formation low, and yeah, it looks like you had a huge, look at that, downtrend. Good lord. Look at that stuff. And it just started pouring. Alright, let's see what we got here. And by the way, these stripes, they must have come on from the new update that TradingView did. So I don't know how to get them off. I know that if you stretch out the screen, obviously, but yeah, this is something new. If you want to get rid of them, you can by going into the settings and you go into the style, and you're basically this fill Asia, fill London, fill New York. If you turn off the opacity, it'll take that off, so you won't see the stripes. So like
Thanks.
if you do this, you see the stripes will be gone. Now what that means though at the same time is when you do that is that when you go back into the charts, you know, and you're going to previous day, you won't be able to see these anymore. So you won't be able to tell where the boxes are, you know what I mean? So if you're okay with that, then that's all you got to do to get rid of that. So just so you guys are aware, and you know, all that good stuff. Make sense?
Thanks.
Yeah, I hate the stripes.
Yeah. I don't like it either, but it is what it is, man. That's what TradingView does to us. All right, let's see what happens here. All right, so based on movement so far, any thoughts on what possible trades you would have or could have potentially? Like anything at all come to mind as far as what, you know, possible trades you could have at that point?
I mean, it's a type 1, but
Or
coming off a peak
scenarios, I should
formation.
say.
Type 1, but coming from a peak formation low, should be, you should take that in consideration on the short.
Right. So the only thing, right, that you can get out of this so far based on where price action is a type 1. Okay? So, let's see if we get anything here. All right. What do you guys think?
I will look at the risk reward there first.
Look at risk reward. Where is it at? This one.
The pin bar to the left there is a good indication of kind of a confirmation that you'll be in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, well, when you look at price action like this, right? The first pin bar here gives you a clue of like, okay, this may be the first leg, right? And then clearly we be going up for a second leg. The biggest problem I see is that the risk to reward ratio is really high
Yeah.
on this. You know, unless you get a pullback, like it's just really big. Now, keep in mind, this is in the middle of pandemics and stuff, so take that with, you know, with what it is. So, but so far, this looks like a second leg railroad track,
Yeah.
You know,
And you get some kind of diversion on the TDI.
yeah. I mean, you do have some divergence here on the TDI as well. Um, the problem is that because this move was so sharp, it didn't have enough candles to get caught up. So the crossover would probably be like late.
Yeah.
So here you have a huge pullback. So the question is, would that be the pullback candle that you'd want to get into? Because now, if you do have that candle as a pullback, now there's your risk to reward is like stupidly, you're like 4 to 5 to 1 almost. You can get to just a 50 on a 3 to 1 almost. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the question
Looks
is,
like
is that pullback, kind of the candle that you're looking for to get into the trade?
a strong movement to the top there. I mean, it's looks like it's got a lot of power behind it.
And when I look at it, my directional bias is up.
Your directional bias is up.
Yeah, so that's why I also think it's
And then all the EMAs are below, so they're all kind of trending that way.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not looking for a sell, at least in my head. And it's Monday, so I don't really like Mondays.
Yeah.
of course it is.
So let me introduce some new evidence for you, right? So you can see from the high to this peak up here of last week was 391 pips. What does that tell you?
Probably went through 380R or something.
Yeah, it's about 380 R.
Right, it's about 380R exactly, right? So if this is 380R, then are you really looking for buys?
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know? If you've gone, this is actually more than 3 times ADR. It's like 3.5 times ADR. Would you really be looking for, for a buy? Then is my question there, because if this high isn't taken out, you can see all these candles here don't want to basically take out that high. You got to start asking yourself, like, why? Why don't they want to take out the high there?
Yes, because they already got enough contracts. They don't want to give those guys that they took out now another chance to take profit.
Right, right. So let's see what happens. So here, there's probably your second leg right there.
Yeah, that looks good.
You see that? That's probably your second leg right there. I would say that's almost like a star pattern, but this doesn't look to cover 50% or 75% of the previous big bull candle. But that right there would be probably your second leg because of the behavior of the candle.
Yeah, there you go.
So this went down all the way to the 800. That's close to 6 to 1 risk to reward ratio on that. That's a pretty good risk to reward ratio on it. Let's see what happens here. Sheesh. So kind of the same thing here, like because of the move that's in Asia, right? There's only really two things that you can look for, or one setup here that you could trade, right?
Yeah, type one.
It's a type one, right? It's the only setup that you can basically trade out of here. Now the cool thing about when this kind of stuff happens, right, is that if you do get a type one, you may get a scenario to where if price happens to be somewhere around here and it's the opening of the US session, then you may look for a continuation trade like this. This one here, how it happened early, by the time the US session opened, it was already here at the 50. But you didn't get any kind of price action to tell you it's reversing. You got two this previous day here, you end up getting two candles, right? Two doji candles here, but literally right after it, full bull and then just straight down. So if you would have gotten, let's just say, a green candle here like that, that would have been a nice continuation trade. So again, same thing, right? This to me looks like a probably first leg, maybe.
Yeah, first leg.
You know, is what that looks like. Do you guys think that's the second leg there?
It's a nice railroad track. It's in between the two boxes.
It is a nice railroad track, yeah. It's also pinning to the 800, which is good.
Yeah.
Let's see, you definitely have some divergence here on the TDI as well, because
Yes.
this is going higher than this one, but on the TDI is actually lower.
Yep.
So the question, does it, make sense to go in as soon as the beginning of the U.S. session? I think that's probably going to be way too big of a candle.
It just looks like your stop loss is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. You would need to come like somewhere down here for that to make sense. So, probably not the best example there.
That's right. In my head, I was already hit stop loss on this one. So
What's that?
I already hit stop loss in my head on this one.
Well, what this does present, though, it does present where price action is. You're clearly not taking a trade like this, right? But because price action is all the way over here, it could lead to, a continuation trade. That it might do. You just need somewhere, as far as price action to tell you that. So if you get if you got this nice big spike here and it goes below this, what's the likelihood of that actually happening? I don't know. Not very high, I don't think, because this seems to be a prominent little spike there. That's a railroad track there. So how big is that? How big is that one there? Because that might be it. Yeah, same thing, 30 something pips. Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to do that, but there you go. There's your continuation trade. All right, what are you guys noticing? Anything about this week so far?
Seems to be accumulating.
Seems to be accumulating, right?
No.
Yeah.
What is the only other option that it could be?
Right now it can still go lower and might be a
Trending.
trending cycle, I guess.
You're right, it could go lower. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's either an accumulation, right? Because clearly all the bigger EMAs are going straight through it. So it's basically like, it's like that. But because this has done technically, so far it's done a lower low, a higher low. This is a higher low here. So the question becomes, okay, what does this do here? Because if this goes up here, now you're looking like it's definitely,
Accumulation, yeah.
an accumulation cycle. But if it doesn't do that, and it does something like that, then now these EMAs are here kind of blocking, you know what I mean? And now you're creating basically the lower low, you know? All right, so let's see what this does here. Which way is it gonna go? There you go. So what's the only possible trade setup, during London at least, that you could take would be what?
That one.
Right. Now what's the problem with it though?
The 13 and the 5 is quite far away from each other.
Right. So the 5 and 13 are pretty far from each other because of the straight move down. Right? So this would need to literally go sideways. So these two can connect and then you can go. You got a pretty good thing here on the TDI also.
Yeah.
What does that lead to though? Think about it.
Multi-session low, like that multi-session W maybe.
No, I mean the setup itself. If you couldn't take a whatchamacallit, a type 1W to go up because of the initial big push down that it had. But because of that, you can see the 50s blocking price action from going up. And I mean, technically, you're freaking like 40, 50 pips away from the low of the day, what you perceive as the low of the day. So you're clearly not going to make a W here. You're going to be able to take a what?
Type 3 maybe.
Not a type 3, but a continuation trade.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's
right. So
that's the stuff we'll get to, you
it's
said.
basically like this. So what are your confirmations that you would have here? Well, you'd have one push, two pushes. You also have the same thing here on the TDI where it's at the 50.
Yeah.
Right? So pin to the 50, you're well outside of the low of the day. You're pinning to the 50 and what looks to be a possible trending cycle down. You know what I mean? So now you start to put the pieces together. Okay, well, what is that? What does the trade setup potentially look like? Where do I have to go for this to make sense? Basically, looking at going to that low there, at least of yesterday,
Mm.
you know, and if this is a trending cycle, it would need to go basically lower than that to create a new lower low. So the next obvious spot would be the previous week's low, which is here, this orange line here. I mean, that would make it a close to 3.5 to 1 risk reward ratio on it. So if you wanted to lower the risk even more, you could literally just do this, you know. If you wanted to lower the risk or even take a uh, smaller lot size. It's just this pattern is you get seen this so many times, and it's just like you just see it over and over and over and over again. So this went to here, which is basically a 3 to 1. All right, so what do you notice about what it looks like so far on Thursday?
Accumulation cycle.
Not necessarily, because it still created a new lower low,
Oh, we did it. Okay. Okay. If you
and
say
it's
so, yeah.
still, I mean, I don't know. This could be a higher low. This is still like you can still draw this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if this
Yeah.
is the case scenario here, what's the best possible trade for that?
I'll say type 2 or a type 3.
Type 2. Sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or yeah.
So for me, I don't know why, man. I just like type threes. I'm a
Yeah,
type,
because of that EMA going through there. A pin to that.
well, I'm the reason I say type threes because I'm a type three junkie or whatever, or like a fiend for type threes or whatever. Um, but no, because of this right here. This is why.
Yeah.
So for me, the ideal trade would be somewhere like this. It gets rejected off the 800. But no, type 2 is totally possible because it's coming back up to these, and then coming down. But yes, for me, it would be a type 3, would be the best thing. I don't know how I got into this whole type 3 thing, but
There you go.
I think that possible spike right here, either here, because you're not going to get to the bottom because of these two EMAs here keeping it from hitting the bottom. So you go to it's almost like because of the EMA here and these two here, it's keeping it from going all the way up, and it's keeping it from going all the way down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here you get your chance to enter here. If you don't enter here, this candle that gives you this sideways movement up or down, that spike, would be another entry point. So anywhere here, and I mean, you're literally trying to get to, just there, literally, which is nothing. That's like extremely doable. And if this is a trending cycle, you got a long ass way down.
Yeah.
If it's not, and it's just going to go sideways, well, in the next 2 candles, you're going to be taken out anyways. And then just call it a day. But this right here, there you go. And so literally in 2 candles, you've already hit your take profit. And look at that shit. Anything else after that is like a
Oh,
freebie.
that's gonna go low now because it's Thursday anyway. Well into Friday.
So look at that, 7 to 1.
Yes.
Fucking 7 to 1 risk reward ratio on that. Shit.
Yep, there you go.
Let's see, this is Friday. Alright, so Friday's got to be a pretty good damn trade setup or nothing. What would be the freaking most amazing setup on a Friday on this?
I mean, looking at the price action from previous, I guess it can be anything. I would say if it shows me a type 1 going long, you know it's setting up for Monday. Or it will just do like a peak formation low from a type 3 or a type 2 going short.
Right. So I mean, if I'm in a trending cycle, the best setup for that type of cycle in this scenario for me would be either a type 2 that would, be going right through the 50, or
Yeah.
ideally like a type 1 that pins to the 200 and drops, so that would be, the ideal type of setup. I don't know if you're going to get very good confirmation from this though, because this is like squeezing it tight.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's for a long. Geez, that's kind of
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, you could see it's basically already down here, from the 3 times ADR that it went up. Now it's gone down 3 times ADR. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh yeah, there you got the ADR as you said. Yeah.
So, but so those are things that going through my mind of like, okay, what's the setup that I want to see, right? That I would like have no hesitations in taking. Either type 2 pins to the 50 or type 1 pins to the 200 would be a trade I would take all day,
Extra barrier there. Yeah.
you know? So then it's just waiting to see what plays out. Does it play that out? Does it not play that out? I don't know. That plays out. What is that?
It's a special pattern of yours.
It's God mode. Go down.
It's God mode. Oh my god. You said God mode. Oh my god, y'all, that's so funny. This is a pretty big candle though. It's not 12 pits, it's not that bad. But yeah, this is that freaking candle.
This is the trade you said you would sell your mom. You'd risk your mom's house on, and you called it God mode. So I've referenced it as God mode from then on.
That is right. Yeah, I would sell mom's house on it. Oh my god. But yeah, that would be a nice trade. Question is, did it go all the way down here or not? But I mean, you just need it to go basically to the bottom of the range of
That's good.
that's it. So, yeah. Well, you even get a pullback too, so that's even more of a better entry on a pullback.
There you go. Jeez.
See, I was right. That is God mode.
It is.
I would sell my mama's house
Yes, you would have
all day long.
been able to buy her back that house and some couple other houses with that trade. Maybe throw in a car or two as well.
Christ. Look at that. That's crazy. What is that? Like freaking 8 times? 9? Almost 9 to 1? Fuck. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So for you to rather pick a short, they're not having them set up for Monday, is basically like you always do, just looking for extra barrier, and that's the EMAs.
Yeah. I'm always looking to use them,
And
to
I see
an
now.
advantage. But I don't know why, man. Like, I like taking trades that either pin to an EMA, or that I can use obviously as take profits. But I actually prefer to have them pinned to the EMA because to me that's a better confirmation. You know. So
Yeah,
like, all the trades that I take, they must pin to something. They must pin to a 50, a 200, 800, whatever. You know.
yeah.
I don't know. That's what I like. So that's just what I take. So compare that to the previous week that we did last week on a trending cycle on a different pair. I mean, this had, one, two, three, four trades during that week. And so you can see basically where depending on the pair, you could have one pair that has a really good trending cycle that gives you four trades a week, or you could have a trending cycle that gives you one trade that week. That would meet kind of like all your different, requirements or whatnots. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's just a patience game, man. It really is. It's just finding what pair you like, the pair that you understand, and literally just getting married to it, put a ring on it, and just trade it. So y'all got to go on some dates. All these are all your dates for the 12 weeks. All these are all dates. You go take them out, see which ones you like, narrow them down, and there's going to be one in there that you're going to fall in love with. That's the one you put a ring on it.
Been divorced before, so I might have to change it up.
Yeah, well, that's, you don't put a ring on until you confirm everything,
Okay, good.
You're still in the, you could be engaged, you know. But then if it messes up, then you could, null the engagement and then, find another one. So, but that's literally what you got to do. All right. Any questions?
No, thanks for explaining the resets and all that today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no thanks.
Cool. Well, you guys have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you on on Tuesday for London session.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
You too. Bye bye.